So welcome to week 2 of our 4-week series on building strength, building fortitude. So we started last week with a pretty good focus on sort of physical strength, but even then I mentioned that we always will blend in resilience in the breath and courage in the mind. And so that's the journey we will continue. So today, you can have your usual position for your opening centering. If you are on your back, if you would like, today you have an option of slightly changing things up to open the heart a little bit more as you're lying down. So this only applies if you're lying down on your back. You can take your blanket and you can fold it up a little bit, like so. Kind of make like a long flat shape out of it, if you have one. And then you settle that onto your mat with the smooth end toward the bottom. And you would place yourself right in front of the beginning of that blanket and then lower yourself into your lying down position, but with your spine on the blanket and your arms draping out to the side. And you'll feel sort of a slight opening across the rib basket. This is a very helpful position to take, especially when we're working with strength and stability around posture, and one to support the breath. So that's an option for you today if you are taking your opening centering in a lying down position. It's one of my favorite ways of helping people work with their rib basket. If you have a little bit of tightness in the rib basket feels a little bit stuck, just that lying down on that long blanket can really help with that. And when the breath can't move well because the rib basket is kind of stuck, well, that affects your mind, it affects your mental health, and it affects your physical strength. So it's a really beautiful little trick to have for cultivating resilience in the rib basket. And it helps with posture, it does all kinds of wonderful things. So that's your option today, your special treat today for lying down. Otherwise, just take whatever position you normally take or would like to take today and settle yourself in. Invite yourself to arrive in this moment, in this space, in this community. Make your discerning choices about how you would like to place your eyes and your hands. And gently check in with your body, just noticing what you are bringing with you this morning. Gently scanning through your physical experience, maybe focusing today on noticing if there are places that are kind of tight and braced, kind of overworking a little bit. Sometimes that happens in your jawbones where you're kind of clenching the jaws, and that's really not necessary whether you're seated or lying down. And so just notice that and see if there's a little bit of tending to that could happen in any braced places in the body to bring a sense of ease. And continue scanning through to notice if there are any places in the body that have that sense of gripping or holding or forcing. And invite them to let be. Yes, we will work with strength today, but right in this moment, ease is possible. And maybe sometimes that bracing is so strong that it just won't go away. Then just send some compassion to those places. And maybe even appreciation for what it is that they're trying to do for you. They're really just trying to support you in the best way they know how. And holding your body in compassionate awareness, gently begin to notice what is happening in your breath. And here too, as you scan your inhalations and your exhalations, notice if there is any sense of urgency here, a sense of doing more than is necessary. And invite a softness, a subtleness into the breath as well. If there's a sense of excitement in the nervous system or fear or challenge, we often find that out first by noticing a force or an urgency in the breath. And so if that happens ever for you, bringing compassion to the breath, inviting it to become subtle and soft, flowing in and out through the nose can be very helpful. And adding a bit of extra attention to the exhalation can deepen that sense of letting go of some of that urgency or bracing. And so gently follow a couple more breath cycles with your full attention and compassion. Inviting subtlety and ease into the breath. And if you notice little hitches or glitches, meet them with compassion. The breath too is moving through you in the best way it knows how in this moment. Can you deeply appreciate it for what it is, no matter how it shows up? And then holding body and breath in compassionate awareness, gently check in with your mind. Scanning through thoughts, stories, narratives, beliefs, attitudes, feelings that are on the mat with you this morning. And then notice the quality of the mind in the same way that you notice the quality of your body and your breath. Scanning in particular today for those rigid places, those tense or tight or overly gripped places, even in the mind. Maybe here it's a bit of a judgment that's creeping in, or a thought that just does not want to go away. Or maybe there's already perfect ease in your mind. Take a moment just to notice, and if there is some gripping, some rigidity, some forcing in the mind, invite a sense of ease, knowing that this may not be enough to change anything, but just giving the invitation sometimes is enough for the mind to let go a tiny bit, for a story to become less urgent, for a thought to maybe move on, passing through the sky of your mind like a cloud. And holding body, breath, and mind in compassionate awareness, very gently bow to your deeper inner wisdom that is also present here with you today. It is your deeper intelligence, your intuition that can guide you to the places in body, breath, or mind that need a bit of attention, that are maybe over-efforting, overly tight, overly urgent. And it is your deeper inner wisdom that helps you convince body, mind, and breath ultimately to let go and to simply be present in this moment just as it is. Does this always work? No. But is there the potential within us? Yes, always. Wisdom and joy are part of our true nature. And so whether you feel them right now or not, perhaps deeply appreciate that the seeds of wisdom and joy are always within you, and that it is the yoga practice that waters those seeds, inviting them to sprout, to grow, and ultimately to flourish. And then if it feels appropriate to you, you might choose to bring your hands to your heart as you bow your head to your heart, to notice if there is an intention, a quality that you would like to bring to the mat today. This is not an expectation for an outcome. This is not a desire for a particular result. This is a quality you're inviting to be present, to move through the practice auspiciously, wholesomely. And if something arises for you, you might choose to breathe it into your own heart with your next breath in. And to silently send it outward into your community of choice with your next breath out. And whenever you feel ready to do so, you might choose to release your hands if they were lifted. You might rise to a seat if you're lying on the ground. You might open your eyes if they were closed and lift your gaze if it was lowered. And welcome, everyone. So yogi's choice, you can stay seated either on a chair or on the ground, or you can stand, whatever feels right for you. This morning, I'll stay seated just because you can see me better on the screen. And we'll start with a couple rounds of sun breath, where we inhale the arms up and exhale the arms down. And we're going to add on to this, and we've done this before, where we add on to the sun breath, a heart breath, and then a reaching toward the sky. And that combination of three movements is called a connection breath. And so that's where we're headed. But for now, just let yourself enjoy the simplicity of breathing in and lifting the arms and breathing out and lowering the arms. And of course, it's never just the arms. You can feel the reverberations of this arm movement through the entirety of your body, whether you're seated or standing. There's a sense of also engaging the core. There's a sense of something happening in your shoulders. And so let yourself enjoy that beautiful collaboration across all of your body parts, across the body and the breath, and across your body, your breath, and your mind. The next time your arms come up and overhead, when you exhale, draw them through your central channel so the palms maybe come together, and bring them to the heart. And then when you inhale, find a heart breath. Inhaling, the arms open, and exhaling, inviting the hands to return to the heart. And we'll just do that for a few rounds. And see if you can bring that sensation to this breath. This opening of the heart, this expression of readiness to be in this moment, to be with what is unfolding. Maybe very consciously allowing yourself to have the movement quite literally inspired by the breath. Rather than the movement guiding the breath inspires the movement. Couple more times this way. The next time After you have opened your heart with your in-breath, when the exhalation brings the hands back to the heart, then with the next inhalation, lift the arms straight up toward the sky. Maybe the gaze follows, and as you exhale, make a big circle down your side. And then that becomes the flow. And you let yourself just be with this movement, inspired by your breath. And as you move through this reaching toward the sky flow, can you gently begin to bring a bit more movement into the length of the spine? Perhaps by gazing up, following your eyes following your hands up toward the sky, and then finding them again at your heart. Maybe you notice that your spine even begins to curl forward a little bit and then back with the inhalation. Just see what feels good to you, and do that a couple more times. And so these are the three movements of connection breath. When you do it as a true connection breath, you do them in sequence rather than with repetitions of each one. But today we're doing it a little bit different. The next time you have exhaled and your hands have landed at your heart, just stay here for a moment and perhaps even bow your head to your heart and let yourself feel the difference between just now and 5 minutes ago, when we were essentially in the same spot with our hands. Maybe not with our body. Our body may have been lying down and now it's standing. And just notice if anything has changed in your sense of vitality, in your sense of breath. And whenever you feel ready to move on, and there's never any urgency, very gently bring the arms out to the side, and then with the exhalation, turn yourself to the left. The hands lightly tap, maybe your leg, the floor, the chair, and then the inhale brings you back up. The exhalation takes you to the right. And that's your flow for just a few rounds. The hands only lightly tap. You don't use them to pull you into the rotation. The rotation that you're creating here in the spine is coming entirely from the core muscles. You're not using passive range of motion by pulling on your body through your hands or your arms. You're very satisfied with the strength that is already evident in this rotation emanating from your core. And this is your core in the large sense, right? This is not just the actual abdominal muscles. These are also all of the little muscles, well, little and big muscles along the length of the spine. This might be involving your pelvic floor. So just enjoy this realization of all this muscular strength that you have. That is subtle, but it is there. These muscles are moving you side to side, and they don't need a lot of help passively from your arms. One more time to the right, and after that, turn to the right. When you have inhaled, settle yourself back at center. And if you're on the floor like me and you have one leg in front of the other, in a sweet seat, for example, or even in a half lotus, go ahead and switch the legs so that you don't get lopsided. And let yourself settle in for a moment. And then whenever you are ready, With your inhalation, bring your arms up. Catch the left wrist with the right hand and keeping the left shoulder toward the back of the body, gently lean to the right as you exhale. So the tendency sometimes here is to collapse forward like this because it feels like you can bend farther, but keep that heart open. Rise with the inhale, and with the exhale, go to the other side. Nice and slow, movement inspired by breath, by a nice, resilient, subtle yet strong, supportive breath through the nose. And as you move side to side here, notice what is happening in this particular dance between body and breath, because you are compressing now one side of your lungs when you exhale, and you are creating resilience in the rib basket with this movement. And so you might notice that the breath shifts a little bit. The speed of the breath, the rate of the breath, I should say, is inspiring the movement, but the movement reverberates back into the breath because it affects your rib basket and the shape of your thoracic cavity. And so your lungs are getting a nice workout in that they have to adapt themselves to this evolving shape of the rib basket. And we started with a side bend to the right, so the next time you have bent to the left, when you rise back up with an inhale, you could stay there for a moment, maybe reach the hands to the sky, feel your own strength, your own vitality, your own energy. And then when you feel ready to do so, you can bring your arms down and just take a couple of, well, maybe never a couple, but just a few shoulder circles to release any tension that may have crept in because of that reach for the opposite wrist, right? You could even take your little chicken arms to release this way, and if you would like, you could do that one-sided chicken arm that so beautifully combines all of the spinal movements. So this is really a very fun movement that's great for warming up the spine. Little kids just know this so intuitively. They do this kind of stuff just out of fun, right? That's that joy, right? That I always talk about as being part of our true nature. Well, kids express this so very freely. And then whenever you have enjoyed this enough, you can let go of that movement and bring your arms out to the side yet again. And with your exhalation, give yourself a bear hug and just round slightly forward. With your inhalation, you'll open up. And we'll do this a couple more times. And here in this movement, pay attention to what's happening with your shoulder blades. Alternate which arm is on top when you come forward. And just notice how on the forward motion, how your shoulder blades move there, and how when you open the arms up, your shoulder blades move during that particular motion. And then if you would like, you could try to accentuate those movements, meaning make them a little bit more profound. So on the forward, really think about the shoulder blades coming forward, kind of wrapping around to the front of the rib basket. And then on the opening, the shoulder blades drawing back along the rib basket on the back side, moving toward each other. And then just do that a couple more times. Mobilizing the scapula on the back body is very, very helpful for lots of reasons, but it certainly is helpful for breath resilience. The next time your arms are open, keep them there, and then take only the right hand and bring it to the chest, just under your collarbone. And just bring the fingertips into the muscle that is directly under the collarbone. You'll feel sort of a soft spot under the collarbone. Just bring the fingertips in there and just let them rest there with a gentle sort of like putting the weight of your arm on that spot. And then open the left arm toward the back a little bit. So you're extending it toward the back. Yeah, you're just opening up. And what you're doing here is you're releasing your pectoralis major and minor on the left side. Those muscles often get very tight, and when these muscles are very tight, they kind of override the action of another muscle that you need for strength, for some things that we're going to do later. It's called the serratus anterior. Not important what it's called, but that's all we're doing here. And then the next time you breathe out, switch sides, bring the left hand to that spot on your chest, just under the right collarbone now. The right arm comes out to the side, and just let that arm open, come forward, and go back a few times. Just giving a signal to your pectoralis major and minor to release and let go of any unnecessary bracing. So often when we work with strength, we think that the idea is to become forceful or tight, contracted. But the reality is, for one muscle to be strongly working, another muscle has to be resilient. And when that balance isn't there, then it's a lot harder to move dynamically with strength. And so we're just opening this front body very gently here. This may not feel like much to you at all, and that's okay. Just know it's still a nice preparatory movement. And then the next time you exhale, you can bring the left hand forward, and then you can release both arms down. And we'll do one more little prep movement before we start into more direct work with strength. And for that one, it'll be really helpful if you could stand at a wall or some kind of surface behind you. So it could be a door, could be, I think one of you has file cabinets behind you. It could even work there. And then bring your arms out to the side in a cactus shape. Hopefully you can see me okay. And press the arms into the wall behind you. Your feet may need to be slightly away from the wall for your back body to settle against the wall comfortably. That's perfectly all right. So you don't have to feel like you have to press the heels into the wall. Just notice what lets the body settle into the wall comfortably, and that's where your feet can be. So totally your own bio-individual anatomy dictates here where your feet rest. And then you are going to take your right hand and you are going to move it down so that that arm is the opposite direction of the left arm. Call this robot arms. And then we're going to alternate. This is going to take concentration for your mind. You could do it one arm at a time if your mind isn't cooperating, or if you feel yourself getting really, really tight and tense. Then do it one arm at a time, like you would bring both arms up, and then one arm moves down. Both arms up, the other arm moves down. Yogi's choice, or you can alternate both at the same time. See what is happening with your shoulder blade here. And for that, maybe just hold the position on one side and then on the other side. And you may have really profound differences side to side here. Like for me, my left shoulder blade really wants to move away from the wall. And so it takes much more concentration here for me to do this with my left arm down than my right arm down. So just notice. And then notice if you're straining in the neck. And if you are, then do one side, then shake it out and do the other side. Yeah, and if you've had enough of this already, you can be done. This is a very nice dynamic stabilization for your shoulders. It invites more strength when we actually begin to do some weight bearing, which is what we will do next. So whenever you've had enough of this, you can bring your arms to your side and then maybe lean forward and let them dangle ahead of you, and just really shake out any tension that may have crept in. Notice if there's a change, like in temperature or the sense of texture in your shoulders. Just tune into that part of your body in the same way you scanned your body in the beginning. And then very intuitively just take a few little movements that might counter any bracing or urgency or forcing that crept into the shoulder girdle. And sometimes that means shrugging up and releasing down. Just notice what works for you. And this time, for the next thing, you can continue to release. If that really created a lot of bracing, keep working until you feel released in the shoulders. If you're ready to move on, go ahead and come back to the wall, but this time face the wall. So rather than the back to the wall, you have the front side of the body to the wall. And here you'll have to play again with your preferred distance from the wall. Your hands will come up in front of you at the wall, and you will slide your arms up as the breastbone, not the nose, not the chin, the head kind of draws back, but the breastbone moves toward the wall. And then the arms slide down and press you away from the wall. You get to decide how far away from the wall feels good for you. And you can begin to feel that now you are weight bearing. In one way, you're rolling up the wall through your hands. And on the way back, you are pressing away. We'll just do that a couple more times. You can move with your breath here. So you might inhale up and exhale away. And on this last round, see if there's a moment during which you can hold. At the top of the inhalation, the arms are up. And then when there is a need, a gentle need for the exhalation, push back, and then maybe hold here for a moment. And then yogi's choice, you can take one more round, or you can bring your hands to your heart, listen inward, or you can release your shoulders, wiggle and shake, whatever you prefer in this moment. And if you took another round, then do go ahead now and release the arms down, or bring the hands to the heart, maybe some shoulder circles, or maybe you just want to close your eyes and listen inward. Notice the energy in the region of your shoulder girdle. Notice if there's a change in temperature or hydration. And notice your breath, your mind. Deeply appreciating these resting periods between effort. This allows your nervous system to integrate what happened. It allows your body to reset. And so you can stay here until you feel as though you have been able to let go of any bracing, forcing, or urgency from the movement. When you are ready to move on, you have options here for the next movement that we take. You can work at the wall again, or you can work at the chair. We're going to do, or you could even work at the floor. We are doing push-ups. You can do these at the wall, where you have the hands directly in line with your shoulders. I'm going to just very quickly show them all so that you can decide which version you want to work with. If you're working at the wall, your push-ups, the elbows move toward each other, and you bring the breastbone toward the wall. The head draws back, and then you press away. So that's your push-up at the wall. The slower you go, you learned this last week, the more you are creating resistance, which builds more strength. That's one possibility. The other possibility is to do this at a chair. So now the hands would be on the chair and your elbows would bend and your upper body is moving toward the chair. That same movement of the scapulae that we observed earlier is now happening in this position. And then, of course, if you are on the ground, then your push-up would be here. But the same thing is true in all situations. The elbows draw in. Oops, I just hit my head on my chair. And then you press up. You could do this on your knees if you're on the earth. But the idea is to move slowly. So you might even see if you can have a count of 5. The hands are at shoulder width, so they're not wider than the shoulders. They're at shoulder width. So I'm seeing some things on the screen where the hands maybe are wider than is ideal for your shoulders. And the elbows stay drawn into the sides. That's your movement. And wherever you are, whether at the wall or on a chair or on the floor, the idea is to move slowly, not with momentum, but with strength and resilience. Maybe 5 seconds to come down and whatever it takes to come back. One more round. And then you can come back to standing, or if you're in a push-up on the ground, you could come back into a child's pose. Wherever you are, take a moment to tune in and to feel the reverberations of the movement. Notice the strength that you can build with just your own body weight. Yeah, we have these little weights, we have the bands, but just your body is a beautiful way of creating weight bearing. When you feel ready and never rushing yourself, you can release your arms down, and we'll give the arms a tiny bit of a break while we repeat our chair squat or room squat that we did last week. We're going to do this every week because it's such an essential strength builder, and it's actually kind of a nice resting pause in between a lot of work with the arms and the shoulders and the chest and the back, which are sort of the big regions that we want to work with, given our history, right, with a lot of insults in those parts of our bodies and a lot of healing in those parts of our body. It's not just the insult, it's also the bouncing back from it, and that's really what this is all about. So for the squat, you have options again. You can start in a seat. Your arms are by your side, or they can reach forward. Your body will lean forward and you lift yourself up. Hands come down. Come down the same way. So you are not tempted to use the arms to help yourself up, right? So often what you see is this kind of thing where there's like a rounding and the arms are used to push yourself up. That's the opposite of what we want, right? So that's the chair version. And this is obviously a beautifully functional movement because this is the movement you need to get up off a couch. And in fact, when you do this sort of on the hour, every hour for 3 or 4 times, try it on a really soft surface like a couch or a bed, because it'll be harder than coming from a chair. If you would like, you can also come into the room version of the squat. So your yogi's choice. You can keep going with the chair. We're just going to do a couple more. Your hands can come to your heart. If you would like, this is where you could grab a couple of weights, but you don't need those. Your legs are as wide as feels comfortable for you. For me, wider feels better with my anatomy. You'll have to try this out. And then your knees touch, or your elbows touch the inside of your thighs, somewhere on the path toward the knees. And you come down on the inhale and up, exhale. Exhale up. Let the breath guide the movement. Finish the one you're on and then perhaps take one more if you would like. And you can end either standing or seated, depending on where you started. You could release your weights if you had them, and let yourself notice your energy, your heartbeat, your vitality, your mind. And whenever you feel ready to move on, we will move on, but please give yourself the luxury of recovery. So if you're not ready, don't move on just because I am. From here, grab either your soup hands or your small hand weights, whatever serves you in this moment. And let the arms be by your side. And by the way, I'll show this with a thera-band too, for those of you who may not have little weights. And you can also do this with no weight at all, and it's still great. I'm going to come to my knees. You don't want to do that. I'm just doing that so that you can see me fully on the screen. And then we'll start with the right hand. Bring the arm up and then press through, all like with the arm nicely tucked in, come down. So really like bring the arm almost like a bicep curl, and then your palm will rotate toward your face as you press straight up. So you're not pressing from out here, right? I'm seeing some of that on the screen. This is hard on your shoulder. You want to press from here. Do you see the difference? Yeah, so you have to kind of rotate. If you come all the way down, you have to kind of rotate your arm a little bit. You should almost, not everybody does, but you should almost feel your upper arm at your right ear. And then you can just press from the shoulder rather than coming all the way down. I'll show this with a thera-band. You would simply step on the thera-band and then use the thera-band as your resistance. So if you don't have little weights, this is a nice alternative for this movement. A blue shirt with a blue thera-band was not a good idea for me today. So I don't know how much you can see here with the thera-band, but that's the idea. And take one or even two more, that's up to you. And give yourself a moment before you switch sides to just integrate what that movement felt like, to remind yourself of the importance of keeping that arm tucked in close toward the side body especially when you press up. So not to let the elbows come out to the side. If you can stay in line with the body, that will really protect your shoulder at the same time that it strengthens it. And then we'll do the other side. You don't have to have the second weight in your hand. I like it for balance, but it's really up to you. All right, and then whenever you are ready, start with just bringing the weight to the shoulder, and then notice how you move, how you rotate the arm here to keep that upper arm really close to the left ear to make that nice straight line up. That's beautiful. I see lots of beautiful straight lines up at the screen now. You can come all the way down to your side if that's your preference, or you can simply press from the shoulder. Or you could use the thera-band. I'll show it on this side too. You stand on the band and then you press up through the resistance of the band. I love the thera-bands like when you travel, because you can throw a band into your suitcase, right? And you still get that resistance without having to carry soup cans or little hand weights. So it's nice to know how to use the band for some of these movements. Take one or two more rounds, yogi's choice. And then let yourself absorb what happened. If you feel the need to move a little bit, you can. If you want to keep pressing, you can. If you want the hands at your heart, you can. It's all up to you. And let yourself feel the reverberations here. Stay where you are, allowing the body to release and let go for just a moment longer. And I will show you a couple of versions for the next movement. For those of you who have a mat practice and who would like to do the next movement on your mat, on your back, I will show that first. You would have your two little hand weights or your soup cans, and you lie down on your back. Your knees are bent, your feet can walk mat width apart, your knees can come together. That's a nice released way for the low back to be in this position. Your shoulder blades, you now know how to feel your shoulder blades. They will walk themselves underneath you so that they're on your back the way they were when you pressed the arms into the wall behind you. And then you use your weights to basically bench press. So the arms come down nicely by your side and you press the weights up and down. So that's the floor version. For those of us who don't work on the floor, you have a couple of standing versions. Both of them involve the thera-band. You can do this with weights too, but the thera-bands are actually better. If you have no problem with it, you can wrap the band across your back and then bring it through like this, okay? So it's essentially on your back, coming through your armpits. And now you're doing that same exact movement of the bench press, but you're doing it standing or seated. If this is uncomfortable, which it may be for women who have scar tissue or radiation burns, right? And this may not be appropriate if you have a lot of pain in general still in this region. You can actually do this really clever thing where you sit on your chair, you take the band and you wrap it around the chair instead of your body, and now you press from here. And this is way more comfortable. It's a little more setting up because you have to get that band around the chair, but you don't have to feel the band pressing against your back or your armpits. So this is actually a beautiful version. Your feet can be nicely grounded. One way in which you can add effort here is to lean forward slightly with a natural curve, so not rounding, not like this, but in the same way that we got up for the squat. That's why we did the squat first, right? To remember that leaning forward in the chair, that's the position that you could take here to bench press on the chair with the band around the back of the chair. This is one of my favorite ways of doing bench presses, using a thera-band. So you have the band around the chair, under your, it kind of comes between your upper arm and your chest, but it doesn't touch. And you press from here. Isn't that nice? For those of you who are trying this with the chair, yeah. And you can always shorten how you hold the band to make this more or less work. And again, the more you lean forward, the harder your core will work. So this is a great core strengthener as well, as long as you keep that natural curve in the spine. And that was a lot of bench presses, so feel free to stop if you haven't already. And release the band and let yourself absorb this practice. If you're already in a chair, well, you can simply sit, let the arms rest. If you're standing, maybe you need to sit down. If you're on the ground, well, you're already lying down. Enjoy. And let yourself really tune into your breath, into your mind. Noticing any changes in your energy, your vitality, your breath rate. Perhaps gently scanning through your body. Noticing if anything has shifted, especially in those places that may have held some tension or tightness earlier. But don't neglect the other parts of you. Really tune in. Some of the work we did may have created some tension. Notice it. And then engage in that same process that we engaged at the beginning of class. If there are places of tightness or tension or gripping in the body, invite them to release. It could be as kind as sending a breath in the direction of that body part. This is, of course, more of a movement of imagination, but it's surprisingly helpful to imagine that you are sending breath or energy or vitality to a tight place in the body. It can often release tension. You could combine that breath with compassion and send compassion to those body parts. If anything tightened up or began to grip during the practice, it's because your body was responding to a demand that was unfamiliar, and it did it in its own best possible way. And so don't fight with that tension, but appreciate it and then invite it to release. And when you are done scanning through the body and sending compassion and breath to any places of challenge, gently invite your body to release to the earth, to the ground, whatever is appropriate for your chosen position. And turn your awareness to your breath, your vitality, noticing what is unfolding in the breath. Perhaps drawing a parallel to how the breath moved through you at the beginning of class and how it is moving through you now. Realizing that just as the body may have responded to the vigor of the physical practice, the breath responded to the vigor of the energetic aspect of the practice. And so your breath may be flowing slightly differently now than it did at the beginning of class. Can you invite that same process we engaged during the opening centering of inviting the breath to become smooth and subtle? Perhaps giving more emphasis to the exhalation for a few moments. Perhaps inviting a sweetness into the breath as it flows through the nose, in and out. And if you feel ready to do so, you can surrender the flow of the breath to the flow of life force that moves through all of us. As you turn your awareness to your mind, to notice what is happening here. Has anything shifted here? Different stories, different thoughts, a shift in feelings. Are there any gripped or tight spaces in your mind now? And if so, can you invite them to become softer and gentler? Can you look at your thoughts or your stories as soap bubbles floating through the air? Some float for quite a while, closer, farther away. Some kind of hover, and some at some point simply pop and disappear. Can you watch your mind with the same curiosity with which you would watch soap bubbles, knowing that they're ephemeral? And then when you feel ready to do so, can you surrender your mind to your deeper inner wisdom that you know will bring you back to what needs coming back to later? Joyfully surrendering, releasing, relaxing body, breath, and mind as you move into about a minute of silence until my voice brings you back. very, very gently invite your senses to reawaken to the outer and inner world. Perhaps noticing the air on your skin, the weight of your clothing, the aroma in your room. Perhaps noticing if there are little movements or wiggles or stretches, or just more quietude that wants to emerge from your body. Perhaps you follow your breath for a couple of rounds. And if you are lying on the earth and you would like to close the practice in a seat, this would be a perfect time to make that transition. But you're always welcome to close the practice lying down, maybe staying in Shavasana a bit longer today after this more demanding practice. If you are in a seat and it feels auspicious for you to do so, I invite you to bring your hands to your heart as you bow your head to your heart. Taking a moment to tune into your inner strength, your inner fortitude. Fortitude, courage, strength is a collaboration of body, breath, and mind. Not any one of those parts of your experience can handle it alone. For fortitude and courage and strength to be true and honest, it is a collaboration of physical strength, vital capacity, and mental fortitude. Perhaps you take a moment to notice if there's a takeaway from class for you today, something meaningful, interesting, important, that you would like to settle into your tissues. Breathe into your body and settle into your memory banks. Perhaps that takeaway combines in some way with your intention, the quality that you brought to the mat today, to create a dedication of merit from your time in this practice. And if a dedication emerged for you, I invite you to draw it into your own heart first with your next breath in. And then to send it silently outward into the greater web of life with your next breath out. And as always, thank you all so much for being part of this practice every Thursday morning. It is such an honor, privilege, and joy to spend these sessions with you. Thank you all.